Okay, let's dive into something that really trips up almost everyone learning English. You know that feeling?
Hmm.
You're maybe watching a great movie, or perhaps you're trying to chat with a native speaker, and it just feels like, well, you feel like you should understand. You know the words they're using, but somehow it's all just way too fast.
Oh, absolutely. That is such a common frustration. That exact moment where you're thinking, hang on, I know these words individually. Why can't I actually catch them when they're spoken at, normal speed?
Or maybe it's even worse, right? Where it just sounds like one incredibly long, unbroken stream of sound, no gaps between the words at
Like a
all,
blur of noise, yeah.
like a really fast train just rushing past.
If that sounds familiar to you listening, then you're definitely not alone. This is probably one of the single biggest hurdles that English learners run into.
And the really crucial point here, something the source material we're digging into today really emphasizes, is that the problem usually isn't about your English level itself. It's not that you don't know enough vocabulary or grammar.
Exactly. It's almost always because native speakers simply don't pronounce words in that very distinct, separate way they appear when you see them written down.
Or even how they might be taught in, say, a slower, more careful textbook audio track.
Yeah, those super clear recordings. Real speech isn't like that.
Right. When people speak naturally, it's all about flow and connection. Words kind of bump into each other, sounds change, sometimes whole bits get shortened. It can feel like a secret code almost.
It really can. It's like a different version of English compared to the one you read on a page or type in an email.
And it's that gap, that disconnect between the written or the sort of ideal textbook English and the actual messy, spoken, natural English. That's where all the difficulty creeps in.
Because learners are often, trained to listen for those individual, perfectly pronounced words, but then they encounter a real fast conversation and it sounds like something else entirely. It throws them off.
But, and this is the really great news, it's actually very encouraging.
Yeah.
Understanding fast English is definitely a skill. It's something you can train.
Absolutely. It's not some magic talent you either have or you don't.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We want to give you the tools, the strategies pulled straight from our sources to help you finally crack that code.
Mm-hmm. Our mission today really is to walk you through 4 powerful strategies. These are designed to help you start recognizing the hidden patterns in natural speech, catch those flying words, and just feel, much more confident when you're listening.
So by the end of our chat today, you should really understand why native speakers seem to connect all their words together.
You'll get familiar with how common reductions and contractions totally change the sounds of words you thought you knew.
You'll also learn a really important technique about focusing your attention on the key words in a sentence, not trying to catch everything.
And crucially, we'll introduce a very practical, very powerful method. It's called shadowing, which is fantastic for actively training your ears to handle that natural, quick rhythm of English.
And the benefit? Well, the sources suggest that once you start really hearing these patterns, recognizing them automatically, that fast English actually starts to feel slower.
It does. It sounds clearer because your brain isn't desperately searching for the textbook sounds anymore. It's recognizing the actual sounds people are making.
It's like finally getting the map for those train tracks we mentioned. Suddenly, the train doesn't seem like just a confusing blur. You see the path it's taking.
A great analogy.
So if you've ever felt lost, or maybe just plain frustrated trying to keep up with native English speakers, definitely stick with us. This deep dive aims to genuinely transform your listening experience.
Oh, wait, let's get into it.
All right, so let's jump into the very first strategy our sources highlight. And this one, it really cuts right to the core of that difference between written English and spoken English. The fundamental idea is this. Native speakers just don't speak word by word. They don't pause and pronounce each word perfectly distinctly one after the other, like, some kind of robot.
Definitely not. I mean, just think about your own native language for a second. When you speak quickly, naturally, do you make a clear pause after every single word?
No way.
Probably not, right? Our speech flows, it connects. And in English, this tendency is maybe even more pronounced, and it's genuinely one of the main reasons it can sound so overwhelmingly fast to learners.
It really is like trying to read sheet music one single note at a time versus hearing the actual finished melody. Natural English blends sounds together. It creates a flow, a certain rhythm.
Exactly. And that's why it sounds so incredibly different from the very careful, separate pronunciation you might have learned initially or that you see in writing.
So this blending, this connection of words, What's the term for that again?
We call it connected speech. And it's not just about speaking faster. It's about how the sounds at the end of one word can influence or link to the sounds at the beginning of the next word.
Okay. Can you give us that classic example? The one the source uses that really shows this transformation.
Of course. So imagine the sentence you see written down nice and clearly.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? 5 distinct words.
Right. Simple enough on paper. But when a native speaker says that naturally, quickly, well, it almost never sounds like 5 separate words, does it? It often comes out sounding more like,
What I wanna do. Listen to that again. What I wanna do.
wow, okay, yeah, that's a huge difference. Let's break that down slowly, because going from what do you to whata is a massive shift. How on earth does that happen?
Well, according to the source material, what often happens is the T sound at the end of what kind of connects or even transforms when it hits the D sound that starts do, and then the do you part gets heavily reduced and blended together. It often sounds like do you or even just do you.
Do you?
Yeah, and all that together leads to whata. It's a real combination of sounds linking up and other sounds getting sort of squashed or reduced.
So it's not just random mumbling. There's a pattern to how those sounds interact.
Okay.
And then the second part, want to, becoming wanna. I mean, that one feels incredibly common. I hear that all the time.
Oh, it is. Want to. Reducing down to wanna is probably one of the most frequent examples of this whole connected speech and reduction phenomenon you'll encounter in everyday English. It happens almost automatically for most native speakers in casual conversation.
So that entire perfectly clear written phrase, what do you want to do, morphs into something that sounds like what I want to do.
Exactly.
And if you, as a learner, are sitting there listening intently for 5 distinct words, what do you want to, and what you actually hear is something that sounds like maybe 3 or 4 blended sounds, well, it's no wonder it feels impossibly fast or just unclear.
Precisely. Your brain is working overtime trying to match the sounds hitting your ears to the individual dictionary words you have stored, but the sounds themselves have actually changed shape in the air.
They've transformed.
They have. And this is where training your ear to recognize these patterns of transformation becomes so essential. You need to learn the sound of wadaya, not just what do you.
Okay, that makes sense. Give us another example of this linking or blending. What about the question, did you eat?
Ah, yes, another great one. In natural quick speech, that very often becomes did you eat? Listen, did you eat?
Did you eat?
Yeah. What's happening there is the did sound at the end of the word did is merging with the Y sound, the U sound at the start of you. And those two sounds together, D and Y, they often create a J sound, like in judge.
Ah, okay, so did plus you makes J. Did you becomes didja. That's quite a significant change in the actual pronunciation.
It really is. And if you're not aware that didja is how did you often sounds, you might completely miss the question being asked.
Yeah, you'd be waiting for a clear did you. Okay, what about a really common phrase like I don't know?
Which, as you probably hear native speakers say constantly, sounds much more like I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. In this case, the test sound right at the end of don't is very frequently dropped completely, especially when it comes before another consonant sound, like the N in no.
But it just vanishes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And then don't know kind of slurs or blends together smoothly, so I don't know consistently becomes I don't know in fast speech.
Okay. And one more common one involving going to, like in I am gonna go.
Yeah, this one almost always gets shortened and linked up. So first, you've got the very standard contraction I am becoming I'm. That's straightforward.
Right.
But then the phrase going to almost universally reduces down to gonna.
Gonna. Yep.
So the full I am gonna go naturally transforms into I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go. Okay, again, if you are meticulously listening for every syllable of I am going to go, hearing I'm gonna go is going to feel like a totally different sentence structure almost.
It really does. It's not just that it's said faster. The actual sounds themselves have morphed and blended.
And what's really crucial to grasp here based on the source is that these aren't just like lazy ways of talking or mistakes people make.
No, not at all.
These are predictable, regular patterns of natural spoken English. It's how the language flows. And your brain can learn to recognize them automatically.
It's like learning a new set of pronunciation rules, but for sounds in combination, not just sounds in isolation.
So the first big strategy is simply building that awareness. Actively listen for these links, these blends. Don't go in expecting to hear every single word, pronounced perfectly and separately.
Exactly right. And that understanding leads us very smoothly into our second strategy, which zooms in specifically on some of the most frequent ways that words get shortened or combined, focusing on what we call reductions and contractions.
Right. So while connected speech is maybe more about how sounds link across word boundaries, reductions seem more about sounds within words or even whole syllables getting weakened, softened, or sometimes dropped entirely.
Especially in those less important grammatical words.
Functional words.
Function words, exactly. Prepositions, auxiliary verbs, articles, the little words. It's all about making speech more efficient, less effortful. And there's a core group of these reductions and contractions that you will hear absolutely constantly in everyday English.
We've already touched on a couple, right? Like want to.
Yes, which becomes wanna, and you'll hear it in sentences like, I want to go home. Listen to that flow. I want to go home, not I want to go home.
Definitely wanna. And going to.
That becomes the very, very common gonna. You'll hear, I'm going to call you later. Hear that smooth gonna? I'm going to call you later.
Yep. And another one mentioned is got to.
Which frequently reduces to gotta. This is used all the time to express necessity or obligation, like, I gotta finish my work. Listen again, I gotta finish my work.
Okay. And we already covered I don't know, which reduces down to...
I don't know. Again, super, super common. You might hear someone say, I don't know where I went.
Okay, now here are two more, the source highlights that really illustrate this shortening process quite dramatically.
Yes. Let me very often reduces to lem.
As in, let me see that.
Yeah.
Or let me help you.
Exactly. Lem, and similarly, give me.
Becomes?
Gimme.
Right, like give me a break or give me your hand.
Perfect example. Gimme.
Now think about that. If you hear someone say, give me your hand, but your brain is actively scanning for the sounds of give me your hand, there's going to be that split second of disconnect, right? Confusion.
Absolutely. A moment of, wait, what was that first word?
But as soon as you know that gimme is the natural spoken form of give me, it clicks instantly. There's no confusion at all.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Knowing these common reductions is almost like having a secret dictionary for spoken English. When you read, you know that I am can be written as the contraction I'm. These spoken reductions are the audio equivalents. They're the sound shortcuts people use naturally.
They really are. And they completely transform how a sentence sounds, making it flow much faster.
And the really actionable advice here is to consciously, actively train your ears to listen for these specific forms. When you're watching that movie, listening to that song or podcast, make it a little game. Try to spot, wanna, gonna, let me give you,
Actively hunt for them.
Exactly. The more you consciously identify them when you hear them, the faster your brain will start to automatically recognize them without you even having to think about it. It becomes second nature.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to our third strategy. This was a bit different in focus. It's less about how the words themselves change and more about where you, the listener, should focus your attention. The strategy is essentially this. Focus on the stressed words in a sentence, not on trying to catch every single little word.
This is such a crucial listening skill, and honestly, it's not just for learning English. It's fundamental to understanding natural speech in almost any language, including your own. When we speak naturally, we simply don't give equal weight or emphasis to every single word that comes out of our mouths. We instinctively stress the words that carry the most important pieces of information.
I like the analogy the source uses. Think of a sentence like a string of Christmas lights. Some bulbs are really bright. Those are your stressed words. And then some are much dimmer, maybe even seem almost osphora. Those are the unstressed words.
That's a great visual. And those unstressed words, the dim bulbs, are usually the small grammatical function words we just talked about. Prepositions, articles, auxiliary verbs, pronouns sometimes.
And interestingly, those unstressed words are often exactly where you find all that connected speech in those reductions we were just discussing.
Precisely. They get reduced and blended because they're not the focus of the sentence. The main meaning is carried by the stressed words.
So the stressed words, the bright lights, are usually the core content words. The main verbs, the nouns, the adjectives, the adverbs, the words that paint the main picture.
Correct. And the strategy here is that if you can train your ear to primarily listen for those bright lights, those stressed content words, you can often grasp the essential meaning of the entire sentence, even if you completely miss or only vaguely hear some of the dimmer, unstressed words in between.
You get the gist without catching every detail.
Exactly. Let's try an example straight from the source material. Listen carefully, and I'll try to make the stressed words really stand out. I was thinking about calling you yesterday.
Okay, loud and clear I heard. Thinking, calling, and yesterday. Now, even if the I was or the about you parts were a bit mumbled or rushed, just hearing those three key words gives me the core message instantly. Thinking, calling, yesterday. I understand the main action and the time frame.
Perfect. You caught the absolute essential pieces of information. You didn't need to perfectly parse I was about calling you, word for word, to understand the fundamental point being made.
Let's try another one. The source also gives this sentence. She's probably going to be late for the meeting. Although maybe isn't typically stressed there. More like probably late meeting.
You're right. Often the pronoun she's wouldn't get primary stress unless for contrast. So let's focus on probably going to be late for the meeting.
Yeah.
Here the emphasis, probably late meeting.
Yes, probably late meeting. So even if the she's going to be part is reduced to something like she's going to be, and for the is quick and unstressed, hearing probably late meeting tells you the main point immediately.
Right. You know the subject, you know the likelihood probably, the state, late, and the event meeting. You've got the core information.
You really do get the whole picture just from those few stress words. And what's kind of incredible when you stop to think about it is that this is actually how our brains work naturally when listening to our first language.
Exactly. We don't consciously process every single the, a, or is. Our brains are masters at filtering for the important, information-rich words.
So why do we sometimes abandon that incredibly efficient natural process when we're listening to a second language like English? We try to catch everything.
It's a common trap. Maybe anxiety, maybe how we were taught. But actively applying this strategy, consciously tuning your ear to listen for the words that seem louder, longer, or higher in pitch, significantly reduces the mental load and the pressure.
Yeah, you're not trying to perform the impossible task of perfectly transcribing everything you hear in real time.
No, you're just trying to grab the key signposts, the main pieces of information that guide you to the overall meaning.
It feels much more manageable. It's about listening smarter, not necessarily harder or faster. It shifts listening from feeling like this frantic race to catch every tiny syllable to more like focusing on the important landmarks that reveal the path.
Well said. And that idea of active training brings us perfectly to our fourth and perhaps the most practical strategy of all. This is one that really ties everything together. Actively training your ears using fast speech practice, specifically with a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. Yes, I've heard this is a real game changer for many learners. Can you explain the basic idea?
The idea is actually quite simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Shadowing means you listen to a native speaker talking and you try to speak at the exact same time as them or immediately repeat right after them like you're their echo or, well, their shadow.
So it's not just passive listening. You're actively involved.
Very actively involved. You are engaging your mouth and your ears simultaneously. And the key is by forcing yourself to try and match the native speaker's speed, their rhythm, their intonation, their pronunciation in real time, you are essentially forcing your brain and your mouth to process and produce English at its natural, connected speed.
And crucially, as you're doing that, you're automatically training yourself to recognize and even produce those connected speech patterns and reductions we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Because you can't shadow effectively if you're trying to say each word separately. You have to mimic the flow, the blending, the shortening, just to keep up. It builds muscle memory for both your mouth and, just as importantly, for your ears.
It sounds like it might feel quite awkward at first, though.
Oh, it almost certainly will. You'll likely feel like you're stumbling over words, tripping up, maybe falling behind. But that feeling of awkwardness, that struggle, that's actually the feeling of your brain working hard, rewiring itself, and building brand new pathways for processing natural, fast-spoken English. It's a good sign.
Okay, so it's worth pushing through that initial weirdness. Let's walk through the step-by-step guide for how to actually do shadowing based on the source material.
Okay. Step 1. Find yourself a short audio clip of real, natural spoken English. And the emphasis here is on real and natural. Not a super slow, carefully articulated language lesson, but something authentic.
Like what kind of things?
Think maybe a short scene from a TV show you like, a segment from a YouTube video, maybe part of an interview, a clip from a podcast conversation like this one. And definitely keep it short when you're starting out. Maybe just 1 to 2 minutes is absolutely perfect. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Okay, short and authentic. Got it. Step 2.
Step 2. Just listen to that clip through once, focusing only on getting the overall meaning. Don't stress about catching every single word or understanding every nuance yet. Just aim for the gist, the main idea.
All right, then step 3.
Step 3. Now play the clip again. And this time, as soon as the speaker starts, you start speaking too. Either try to speak along with them simultaneously, or repeat immediately right after them, sentence by sentence, or even phrase by phrase if needed. Your goal is to imitate them as closely as humanly possible.
Imitate everything.
Everything. Their rhythm, their intonation patterns, the melody of their voice, their pronunciation, and definitely their speed.
Okay. And step 4, which you mentioned, is vital.
Yes, step 4 is crucial. As you are doing this shadowing, consciously focus on matching the flow of their speech. Do not try to pronounce each word separately and distinctly the way you might if you were reading it aloud slowly. Instead, try to copy exactly how the native speaker blends their words together, how they reduce certain sounds. You're aiming to replicate the overall sound of their speech, not just recite the individual words.
So copy the music, not just the notes.
Beautifully put, yes. And it's totally okay to stumble, to miss words, or to fall behind, especially at first. The point isn't instant perfection. The point is the practice itself. You can, and probably should, repeat the same short audio clip many, many times. Repetition is key here.
Okay, this sounds really practical. Shall we try some quick guided practice right now, using the examples provided in the source?
Let's do it. So, for everyone listening, get ready to actually speak out loud. We'll say the example sentence slowly first. Then we'll say it at its natural, faster speed. We'll give you the breakdown of what's changing, and then we'll prompt you to shadow along with the natural speed version.
Listen closely, and really be prepared to repeat immediately after you hear the natural speed version. Don't be shy.
All right, first example. This is a very common phrase you'd hear in casual conversation. Slayly, it is, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?"
Okay, now listen for the natural speed version. Hey, what are you doing this weekend?
Listen again. "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?"
Okay, let's break that down quickly. As we discussed, what are you very often becomes wadaya.
Wadaya.
And the word doing very frequently sounds like doing with
Right.
that final G sound getting dropped. Doing.
Right, so what are you doing? Okay, now it's your turn to shadow. Listen carefully to the natural speed version and repeat it immediately after I finish speaking. Get ready.
Natural speed. Hey, what are you doing this weekend?
Okay, listen again and repeat right after me. Shadow it.
Natural speed. Hey, what are you doing this weekend?
Okay, your turn now. Repeat after us. Short pause.
Nice. Good job trying that. It probably feels a bit strange, right? But remember, that's your brain and mouth actively learning. Let's try another one.
Example 2. This is about asking for help. Slowly the sentence is, "Can you help me with this?"
Okay, now listen for the natural speed. Can you help me with this?
One more time. "Can you help me with this?"
Right, the breakdown here. Can you often reduces to a softer, quicker, can ya? Can ya? And sometimes the phrase help me can link together and soften, almost sounding like help me or maybe help me with the sounds blending smoothly.
Okay, get ready to shadow this one. Listen closely and repeat immediately.
Natural speed. Can you help me with this?
Listen again and shadow. Try to match that rhythm.
Natural speed. Can you help me with this?
All right, your turn. Repeat after us. Short pause.
Fantastic. Keep it up. Don't be afraid to actually say it out loud. One more example for practice. This one is about expressing surprise. Slowly, it's, I didn't know that.
Now listen for the natural speed. I don't know that.
Again, I don't know.
Okay, the breakdown here, didn't, often reduces down significantly, sometimes sounding very similar to don't know, becoming dunno. That final key sound often disappears.
Oh, no.
And then know that links together. Sometimes the T sound at the end of that can also be reduced or softened quite a bit, especially when it links smoothly to the word before it.
Okay.
All right, final practice for this round. Let's shadow the surprise phrase. Listen carefully and repeat immediately.
Natural speed. I don't know that.
Listen one more time. Shadow it. Match the sound.
Natural speed. I don't know that.
Okay, your turn. Repeat after us. Short pause.
Awesome. That feeling, that act of trying to mimic the sound and the rhythm you just heard, that is the core of shadowing.
And the source really emphasizes consistency here. You don't need to do hours at a time. Even just dedicating 5 or 10 minutes every day to shadowing a short clip can make a truly significant difference in how quickly your brain starts to automatically recognize these natural speech patterns.
Just 5-10 minutes daily.
Okay.
Let's do one final really quick shadowing drill, also from the source material. Listen closely to the full sentence and then try to mimic the natural speed version immediately after we say it.
The sentence is, what are you going to do later?
Okay, quick breakdown first. We know what are you often becomes wadaya,
Would I,
and going to becomes gonna.
gonna.
So the whole phrase sounds like,
What I gonna do later?
okay, everyone listening, Get ready to shadow this one as fast as you can, really trying to match the connected sound. Ready? What are you going to do later?
Shadow. Short pause.
Good. Let's try it again. Listen and shadow immediately. What are you going to do later?
Shadow. Short pause.
Excellent. One more time. Really try to feel the rhythm. What are you going to do later?
Shadow. Short pause.
Great job trying that. That feeling of pushing your ear and your mouth to work together at speed, that's exactly what we're aiming for. Consistent practice like this is what trains your brain to automatically hear, what are you going to do later? Instead of getting stuck trying to find the separate words, what are you going to do later?
And it's that automatic recognition, that instant decoding, that makes fast English start to feel slower and much, much clearer. The mystery disappears.
All right, fantastic. We've covered the 4 core strategies and even squeezed in a bit of live practice. Now it's time for your challenge task. This comes directly from today's deep dive source material, and it's designed for you to take everything we've discussed and really put it into action on your own time.
Because understanding the concepts, knowing about connected speech and reductions, that's really only step 1. The real progress comes from actively training your ears and your mouth through consistent practice. This challenge is structured to help you do exactly that.
Okay, here it is. Step 1. Go find yourself a short audio clip of real, authentic spoken English. As we said before, keep it manageable, just 1 to 2 minutes long is ideal.
Remember, look for something natural. A clip from a TV show, a movie scene, a segment of a YouTube video, part of an interview, a short podcast excerpt. Anything where people are talking naturally, not reading slowly.
Got it. Step 2.
Okay.
Listen to that clip 2 times. The first time through, just focus on understanding the overall meaning, the main idea. Don't get hung up on missing individual words.
Then the second time you listen, put on your detective hat. Listen specifically for the patterns we talked about today. Try to actively hear where words are connecting and blending. Try to identify any reductions or contractions like gonna or wanna, and pay attention to where the speaker is putting the stress, which words sound louder or longer, carrying the core information.
Okay, listen once for gist, once for patterns, then step 3.
Step 3 is the active part. Shadow the audio. Play the clip again, maybe sentence by sentence, and repeat immediately after the speaker, or try speaking along with them. Your main goal is to match their pronunciation, their speed, and especially their rhythm and flow. Really trying to mimic how they connect their words and reduce certain sounds.
And remember what the source suggested. If it feels way too fast when you first try, that's normal. Most audio players or apps nowadays allow you to slow down the playback speed slightly, maybe to 0.75x. So feel free to start there if you need to, and then gradually increase the speed back up to 1x as you get more comfortable with the clip.
Absolutely. Use those tools. And for those of you listening who really want to push yourselves and get maximum benefit, there's an extra challenge step mentioned in the source material.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Record yourself while you're doing the shadowing practice. Use your phone or computer. Then, once you've recorded yourself mimicking the clip, listen back to your own recording and compare it directly to the original native speaker's audio.
Ah, that sounds really useful, if maybe a little intimidating.
It can be, but it's incredibly insightful. Ask yourself, how close did my rhythm and pronunciation get to the original? Where are the biggest differences? Are you connecting words where they did? Are you reducing sounds? Hearing yourself objectively like that can highlight exactly what you need to work on.
That makes sense. And we and the source would genuinely love for you to reflect on your experience with this challenge. Taking just a moment to think about it really helps solidify the learning.
So maybe ask yourself these questions, which come from the source. What specific audio clip did you end up choosing for your shadowing practice? What felt like the hardest part for you during the challenge? Was it keeping up with the speed, noticing the connected speech, hearing the reductions, mimicking the rhythm, or something else entirely?
And maybe try to pinpoint what specific words or common phrases did you notice changing the most dramatically from their written form when you heard them spoken quickly in your clip?
You could share your reflections with a language exchange partner, write them in a journal, or even just think them through in your head. Simply engaging with the process helps you internalize what you're learning much more effectively.
Okay, so quickly wrap up the main points of this deep dive. We explored why native speakers naturally link words together, creating that smooth, sometimes fast-sounding flow.
We learned about many common reductions and contractions like wanna, gonna, gotta, dunno, lemme, gimme, and how recognizing these instantly decodes chunks of speech.
We discovered the power of shifting your focus, listening primarily for the stressed content words in a sentence to grasp the core meaning more easily, rather than trying to catch every single syllable.
And finally, we introduce shadowing as a highly effective, active technique to train both your ear and your mouth for the realities of natural, fast English speech patterns.
And perhaps the single most important takeaway from all of this is that understanding fast English isn't some impossible mystery or innate talent.
Not at all. It's a skill you build step by becoming aware of these common patterns and then actively, consistently practicing listening for them and mimicking them yourself. Your brain is incredibly adaptable. It will adjust with practice.
And speaking of adapting, get ready for our next deep dive tomorrow, because we're going to flip the coin and look at the other side of this challenge.
That's right. Tomorrow, we're diving into how you can sound more natural when you're the one speaking English.
So if you sometimes feel that your own spoken English sounds a bit too careful, a bit too much like you're reading from a textbook.
Or if you maybe struggle with finding a natural rhythm and flow when you speak, making your sentences sound a little stiff or unnatural.
Then tomorrow's deep dive is definitely for you. We'll be sharing concrete, actionable strategies, again drawn from our sources, designed to help your own English speech sound more natural, more fluent, and ultimately more confident.
It really is the perfect follow-up to everything we've discussed today about listening comprehension. Understanding and producing go hand in hand.
So you absolutely don't want to miss it. Tomorrow's deep dive is officially titled Day 4, How to Sound More Natural in English.
Make sure you're subscribed or following this feed wherever you're listening right now so you automatically get that next deep dive as soon as it drops.
And in the meantime, remember what we learned today. Understanding those fast English speakers, it's completely achievable for you.
Just be patient with yourself. Keep actively training your ears by listening for those patterns. Keep practicing that shadowing technique, even just for a few minutes a day. And honestly, sooner than you think, that speed won't feel like such a daunting barrier anymore.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time for the next deep dive. And until then, listen, shadow, and keep practicing.